Look at the animals we farm: cows, sheep, chickens, not wolves, lions, or tigers. That pattern is not random. It is survival math, with surprisingly bad manners. Every step up the food chain loses energy as heat, motion, and body tissue. If an animal eats meat, you first grow the prey, then the predator. That is two expensive meals, not one. Herbivores can turn sunlight, grass, and rough plants into food humans can use. Carnivores need protein-rich prey, which is usually more expensive to raise and store. They also eat a lot for their size. Big bodies and sharp teeth are not thrift store design. Humans domesticated animals that were easier to breed, feed, and handle without constant danger. A cow is stubborn. A wolf is stubborn with a lawyer and a knife. If a herd animal panics, you lose time. If a predator panics, you may lose a person. Herbivores and omnivores can give humans milk, wool, eggs, leather, and labor. Predators are built for hunting, not for being calm, multi-purpose farm assets. You would spend more food, more space, and more effort to get less edible output back. Farmers care about feed conversion, how much food becomes body mass we can actually use. Cows and sheep have microbes that break down cellulose in grass. We cannot do that ourselves. That means they can live on land humans often cannot use for crops. Carnivores usually depend on animals that needed prime land, water, and feed first. So the hidden cost is not just meat. It is the whole ecological invoice behind that meat. Early farmers did not domesticate animals because they were cute. They chose what paid rent. Animals that tolerate crowds, fences, and humans are much easier to scale into livestock. Over generations, humans bred for docility, faster growth, and predictable reproduction. Breeding carnivores for farms would mean fighting instincts shaped for stalking, killing, and guarding territory. That makes them risky near workers, children, or other animals. Farms prefer fewer surprise emergencies. In farming, boring is beautiful. Predictable animals are profitable animals. There are exceptions. Humans do eat some carnivores, but mostly from the wild or by accident, not as a farming standard. Fish are a special case, because aquaculture can sometimes be efficient even for species that eat other fish. For land animals, the rule is simple. The more steps between sunlight and dinner, the pricier dinner becomes. Could we farm predators anyway? Sure. We could also wear shoes made of sandwiches. It would be less efficient. Herbivores come with built-in machinery for turning plants into calories. Predators do not. In many herbivores, microbes do part of the work for free. Biology loves outsourcing when it can. Carnivores often need more enclosure, more security, and more specialized care to stay manageable. Even routine medical care gets harder when the patient is armed with teeth built for a living. Some carnivores have meat that is less familiar, less plentiful, or simply not preferred by most cuisines. Taste matters, but economics and biology explain far more than personal preference ever could. Calories do not care about our intentions. They follow rules, and one of them is conservation with a wicked sense of humor. Once you want to feed millions of people, small inefficiencies become giant problems with invoices attached. Eating plants directly is the shortest route. Raising herbivores is the next best workaround. Any extra animal in the middle means extra feed, extra waste, and extra time before dinner shows up. The animals we kept were the ones that reproduced reliably, tolerated humans, and converted cheap feed into useful goods. Farming is not a nature documentary. It is applied logistics with hooves. The food web looks elegant on a poster. In a barn, it looks expensive, hungry, and occasionally teeth forward. Humans do use carnivores for jobs like guarding or pest control, but not usually as primary food sources. That is the key. Animals get raised for the job their bodies are best at doing. Cows turn low-value plants into milk and meat. That is a very useful metabolic trick. Sheep give wool, chickens give eggs. The menu is not the only product line that matters. Carnivores mostly make more carnivores, more danger, and less useful flexibility for human systems. This is not a moral ranking of animals. It is a practical sorting system built over thousands of years. We choose the animals that turn sunlight into dinner without turning the farm into a hazard zone. Herbivores are cheaper, safer, and easier to scale. Carnivores are usually the opposite. That is why they remain exceptions, novelty foods, or specialty cases instead of the backbone of agriculture. The animals that won domestication were not the fiercest. They were the most cooperative and cost-effective. That is the real answer. Farming selects for the best return on land, feed, labor, and patience. Tradition keeps the pattern visible, but efficiency keeps it alive. In a weird way, herbivores are sunlight in disguise. Carnivores are several expensive steps later. So if you want food from animals, the shortest practical route is usually through plants first. That is why we mostly raise herbivores. Not because carnivores are impossible, but because they are expensive trouble with better manners in the wild. Agriculture is basically the art of choosing the animal that gives you the most food for the least chaos. A cow is an edible grass machine. A lion is a very expensive reminder that nature has priorities. So the answer is not taste and not luck. It is efficiency, safety, and biology lining up in the same direction. Humans did not pick the fiercest animals. We picked the ones that made dinner make sense. That is how a species became a farm partner instead of a lunch schedule. Farming rewards the animal that is least dramatic per calorie. Nature, on the other hand, remains spectacularly unhelpful. Herbivores are cheaper to feed because they start closer to the sun. Carnivores sit too far down the energy ladder, so every meal gets pricier before it reaches us. History, economics, and biology all quietly agreed on the same livestock shortlist. The farm chose the animals that could eat the landscape, not the other way around. That is the strange secret of agriculture. The best food animals are the ones not trying to eat you back. In the end, the most useful farm animal is the one that turns chaos into dinner with the least paperwork. That is less glamorous than a lion, but considerably easier to milk. So we raise herbivores because farming is about getting more back than you put in, and predators usually fail that test.